which sometimes, as you may know from hearing me talk, for my southern accent is not good, but I'm going to try to get through this. So if you need me to slow down, just let me know, but we're just going to give you kind of a little download of what we've been working on. I do want to remind you all that all the way back when Jude Conway came to me back in 2017, I told everybody I'd been about 15 years into this work at that point, and that was the first time that a group came to me offering to help us and work with us. I was used to out chasing and finding everybody, so my allegiance to AgVA remains extremely strong. I can remember the day I got the slide deck from Jude of how we could work together and how you guys could help us expand up here. I was like, this is awesome. I'm used to having to do the deck and beg people to work with us. So you guys have been faithful. That was back in 2017. We did our MOU to work together in 2018, and everything we've done has now gotten very intertwined with how do we expand and work together here in the Midwest, and then how do we work with you all in some of our platform across the country. So thank you. I think everybody knows what we're about, and it's dovetailed perfectly. I love the new discovery trials as an addition to this kind of thought process, but how do we make sure farmers are in the middle of building new companies? And I love the idea of the more origination. I got really excited by just your talk, Spencer, about the crossroads and how do we get more deeply involved as farmers. So how do we get trials, be able to ground truth what we're doing? I'll talk about why that's really important again in just a minute. And get those in the most strategic parts around the country, which is why a group that started out in West Tennessee and the Delta is now partnered with a group in Iowa, and collectively we're all partnered in the Willamette Valley and picking up members in the AgVA and AgLaunch along the way. The other big part of what we're mutually focused on is bringing aligned investors. We're kind of in an area the last couple of years, as Spencer mentioned, where there hasn't been as much capital, and in some ways I feel like that's kind of a good thing in agriculture, because a lot of the capital that was floating around was uninformed, didn't understand the timing, and was not probably aligned with where we want to go with agricultural kind of companies. And so we're sort of thinking about how do we cultivate this community of investors that understand the kind of issues really you brought up a minute ago, Spencer, in terms of what are these big changes and this understanding. We're just at the beginning of how agriculture is going to work, and we have an opportunity to grow into that. And then finally, building these communities like you see here with the founders that collectively we're trying to support. People with good ideas, we hope they work. We also hope that if they're smart and they're put all their effort into it, that will help them with the second try if they need to do that, and then building those kind of communities. A couple of sort of updates from our end. Most of you all know, and you're going to hear in just a minute, from the 4 new cohort companies that AgVA is invested in and the Farmer Network is a part of that came into AgLaunch365. Those 4 got offer letters from us together from, I think we had 80 plus applications from 21 states and 7 countries to get in, and they'll be going into field trials over just, in our part now, we're already kind of starting on some of the data stuff, but be rolling out this summer with some of the other companies. We've also got a full-time hire now that's working in the universities, pulling out new technologies that might bundle into one of the existing companies or be a standalone company, and there's some other kind of components that go along with that. And then Margaret Oldham, who's one of our co-founders, if you know Margaret, many of you worked with her, and she's a partner on the fund. She's working in what we call AgLaunch Growth. So those are companies that are kind of ready, they've got the scalability risk, and they're ready to get in front of bigger end user partners, potential acquisition target acquirers, and helping them kind of grow that last mile to get maximum visibility and data to get on the many acres. And we've done a little bit of thinking with our field trials. Some of you all are engaged already in these, but we kind of divide them up in these sort of 3 categories. And what we realize is some of the really early companies just need a little bit more kicking early, and they're not really ready. Even what sometimes we need to study is not obvious to the mode of action or whatever. So we're spending a little bit more time in what we're calling the red zone. Let's make sure there's not fail points that are obvious before we take more time to get on more farms. So we're really doing that by embedding on 1 or 2 farms, digging deep there, and then moving to, once we have sort of a minimal viable product, repeatability, get on a few more farms, and then begin to scale. And so you'll see this summer, as we're working together on trials at each one of those categories, and kind of back to the discovery trial concept. If you're the kind of farmer that you really want to build, that top part of that's perfect for you. You might end up housing a startup on your farm for a week or 2, like a couple of these groups have done already with farmers down south, to just learn the whole operation and really understand how they fit into it. And then as you get down this sort of funnel and you're into sort of scalability, that's a little bit more like the kind of trial work we already do for corn seed companies or others, where we're just testing it broadly, making sure it works in whatever our geography, soil type, or whatever. The other thing we've been doing together, and AgVA has been supporting us, is recruiting more farmers that don't know they're interested, they want to be involved in innovation, they haven't either got to meet you guys or meet us yet, and how do we bring those in broadly? So we've got a pretty massive national campaign where we're attracting farmers, they're coming in, they don't cost anything to participate, just to learn more about all these opportunities. And then the goal is for us to convert those into AgVA members. And we're hoping by the time we get to the annual meeting next year, you'll see, I think it was 20 new members, but I'd love for that to be many more in many other states that have come in and joined the group. And then we're doing a lot with data. I think you all know, some of you have heard me say this story before, but we were using you all as an example back when you all started in the 90s, is how to do this work and how to make sure we're adding value above the farm gate. And so we continue to sort of think about that with data, with the overall offering and how we operate, both with data from companies that already are on our farms that collect things. Can we do other things with that? Can we build companies differently? And then certainly with the startups that we're building value for everybody together. And then the fund Spencer mentioned, we're partners on building out a larger fund that will be able to deploy more capital, where you all have filled that role with us traditionally, and be able to do that at a broader scale. So why is this important for farmers? We have a vision, and it really fits perfectly with what Spencer and Joe and others are talking about a very diversified, resilient system that allows you to do what you were originally doing with your legacy, with building ethanol co-op and other value-added businesses. How to have additional revenue streams beyond farm gate, how to have different opportunities of what you grow and how you grow it and where we create the value. And so we're starting with this equity model that some of you are involved in, where we're taking equity to participate in building companies, but really what that should lead to is a lot of these other opportunities in a bigger portfolio for farmers. And then last, I want to make sure you understand what we in this room have and the value of it. So for founders, what happens now is a founder, especially if they don't have an AgVA, you guys are willing to write that first early check, from their idea till they raise the first $1 million or $2 million, they're spending up to 70% of their time chasing money that's probably not strategic, just to keep the lights on. So as we get better and better at this together, we're basically taking that time and giving it back to the founder to build what they're building, as opposed to running around chasing for crumbs to get to scale. And so the biggest thing that we're collectively doing is helping with that. And then the second set of numbers or percentages is astounding. There's been about $40 billion of venture capital invested in the last 10 years in farmer-facing technologies. And as much as maybe 70% of that has been getting on farms, getting access to farmer data, and acquiring farmers as customers. So even if it's at the low end of that, 35, this is billions and billions and billions of dollars doing something that collectively with our group, AgLaunch and with AgVA, that we can also dramatically cut the time, as Spencer mentioned, but the access and get technology to that's better, that's more likely to actually help us and build farm profitability and do it faster and more investable. So thank you all very much. What we're going to hear now are the 4 new companies that you all invested in back in January. They are, of course, seeking additional investment and trying to grow. I'm not going to introduce each of them separately, but it's going to be AgFlow, Animal Deterrent Solutions, NovaClade, and Seisme, and so they're going to do a 5-minute pitch for you all. So, and thanks again for having me. It's always nice to be here.
So how many of you have paid for smart ag systems that still overwater your field, collect your data, and then sell it to big ag companies? Well, major ag tech companies are racing to build AI for farming. The promise, AI-powered precision will save farmers money. But here's what's actually happening.
Current soil data is static, and your soil tests are fragmental, missing what's really happening 99% of underground. Fixing it requires on average 50 to 100 sensors per field, which is a $50,000 expense to most farmers. And even when you do put sensors in the field, 30% of that data is lost due to sensor failures. And what's worse is even when you do collect the data, the platform owns it, monetizes it behind you to other big ag companies, and farmers have no way to capture that value.
So farmers, the most important asset on your farms, the data isn't being harvested. So at AgFlow, we solved it. We are creating the first soil data infrastructure layer that sits on top of your current existing sensors. We either deploy 10 to 15 of our low-cost sensors or integrate with your existing sensors. Think of it like going to a doctor. The doctor doesn't check your temperature across your entire body. They take a few vital signs to understand what's happening with your ground. Same for us. Just 10 to 15 of our low-cost sensors is able to interpolate evapotranspiration rates and pK levels, as well as simple labels like pH and moisture to tell a living digital twin. Let's see how our technology works in real life. We have the same 3 fields of one of our California field trials across almonds. Let's look on the left. Just 20 sensors and a lot of green. A lot of people will say this looks fine. But here you miss the red zone areas where there's less moisture and we need water more. That's where agriculture wastes those $3 billion in irrigation. Now let's look at this middle image with 50 smart irrigation sensors. You're able to get that precise level of your field, but now you need that $50,000 investment to get that level of precision. And the third image is where we come in with just 20 sensors and our dynamic model, which will be able to match the accuracy of these big ag companies.
And here is what makes our business model powerful. We solved agriculture's biggest adoption problem, upfront capital. Our first revenue stream is performance-based recurring revenue. We take 35% of verified water savings or verified input cost savings. This model gives us 3 strategic advantages. First, rapid farmer adoption. It removes the primary barrier to deployment. And second, immediate proof of value. And third, predictable recurring revenue. Our second revenue stream is high margin data licensing. While we are creating the operational revenue, we're building the industry's most valuable asset, high resolution continuous soil data sets. This creates a flywheel effect. Every farm adoption creates 2 revenue streams, 1 operational savings and 2nd data licensing. By year 3, we expect data licensing to reach over 90% gross margins as we transform from performance-based to platform economics.
So we are targeting a $15 to $25 billion industry of US digital crops. At just 2% penetration of the US markets at a $15 per acre, we're expecting around a $60 million ARR at a peak capacity.
So what makes AgFlow different? Yes, there are other soil data, soil sensor providers, but here's the critical difference. Other competitors offer services as subscription-based with fragmented data. Farmer adoption is still less than 5% even after a decade. And we flip that model. We provide performance-based model, which gives you revenue sharing options. And this makes our model indefensible in 3 ways. First, our data moat compounds daily. By year 3, we'll have 900,000 of farm days of continuous soil data sets, the largest of its kind across North America. And second, we own farmer relationships through performance-based economics. Our revenue share models drive 10x faster adoption rate, which gives us 10x faster data accumulation, which then gives us the distribution velocity that our competitors cannot match. And third, which is the last one, the network effects that lock in enterprise buyers. The more farms in our network, the more valuable the data sets become when we monetize it to seed and ag tech companies validating their products.
So a scaling strategy of our digital twin is de-risked in 2 phases. Firstly, we are partnering with AgLaunch network to deploy other commercial pilots. We started with almonds and pistachios, but now we are growing into corn, soybean, and cotton in Tennessee. By first in a half year, in 18 months, we'll have almost 50,000 acres mapped into our digital twin. So next time a farmer joins our network, it will be a lot more cost effective for any new joiners. The phase 2 is more platform and monetize, where we will be collaborating with more enterprise buyers to have an equity shared model in selling this data sets. And we are open to investors in this room because we're raising a 200K safe round, and we would love to have AgVA as part of our investment with the same deal terms as the previously provided.
And our team is built for this challenge. For us, it's actually deeply personal. My co-founder and CTO grew up on his grandparents' farm in India, and now his AI research paper has over 400 citations. I used to work at World Bank on agricultural development, and I saw how farmer cooperatives create lasting value. We met at Columbia University, started this journey together. We understand farmer intuition because we've lived through it, and now we're building the technology to amplify it. And we recently hired a new researcher from Stanford University to add on additional technical expertise. We're making meaningful progress, and we're commercializing fast. Our research publications was published at Microsoft and ACM Research Conference. Our team was awarded by Google and National Science Foundation, and more importantly, this year, we received sustainability grant from UNDP, and we have been conducting pilots with AgLaunch Farmer Network, and every farm we add makes the system smarter. Today, agriculture measures soil like a snapshot. We're trying to make it a story, continuous, predictive, profitable, and alive. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for this opportunity. Every single one of us in this room have personal experience with nuisance animals on our own farms and in our own lives. Whether that's blackbirds in a beef or dairy operation, crows in an orchard, or geese on a golf course, these kinds of pests create a visceral response in all of us. Flocking birds in particular cause hundreds of millions of dollars in damage each year. But this represents just a small portion of a much larger market opportunity. They steal feed, spread pathogens, foul facilities with their waste, damage crops, disturb livestock, and destroy aquaculture. My name is Mike Dessau, and I'm one of the co-founders and CEO for a company called Animal Deterrent Solutions. Our product is camera vision enabled. It's AI activated to be able to select only the nuisance animal, and it applies a laser deterrent in a safe and selective manner. Our solution works 24/7, 365 in ways that these nuisance animals can't predict or avoid. We're making progress towards something farmers can actually use. The early water system on the left proved autonomous detection. The early laser system in the center proved targeted deterrence. What we're building towards in 2026 is a farm-ready system that runs continuously, autonomously, and is not predictable. This is a complicated technical problem, but our team has spent years integrating sensors into environments that don't forgive mistakes. Everything from integrating radio jamming counter IED devices into combat operations in Afghanistan to designing and testing optical mass flow sensors for cotton harvesters in places like Australia and Uzbekistan. We know how to bring together solutions in austere places. Currently, we're designing a base unit with a laser deterrent to be sold as a single hardware system. The subscription service is for more than just connectivity. It's a feature enabler. So here's some of the things we're thinking about for future iterations. Real-time alerts and push notifications sent directly to your phone every time the system detects and deters. A live camera feed, so you can check on the system anytime, anywhere. A weekly activity report with short video clips showing every time the system activated, and automatic software and firmware updates. Now, we know that not every farm operation is the same. That's why we're planning to offer future options and upgrades. Need the system to run off battery or solar power in a remote location? Want to mount one of these systems to a mobile platform? Looking to deter additional pest species beyond just birds? We're taking into account all of these future features throughout our design process. There are other competitors on the market today that are using lasers. But none of these systems use cameras or artificial intelligence, either at all or effectively. Their lasers are always on, they sweep a circle, they follow a grid pattern. These nuisance animals learn those patterns and the deterrent stops being effective. Additionally, some of these systems can cost upwards of $17,000 per unit. Other competitors use teams of dogs, individuals on motorized vehicles, unsightly netting, streamers, sound cannons, and a host of other largely ineffectual solutions. The fundamental problem is that once the deterrent leaves or stops, that nuisance animal comes back. Our technology represents a more holistic solution. Animal Deterrent Solutions was, as was mentioned, recently selected by farmers, depicted here on this map, from a global pool of more than 80 applicants. These farmers are now invested and committed into our success. The support of AgLaunch, the Farmer Network, and you all at AgVA includes capital investment, field trial support, and being some of our earliest champions. Our team is a seasoned group with more than 9 collective decades of experience in global project management and business development, intellectual property, market analysis and strategic communication, and engineering development. As a husband and father to 4 sons, an agricultural engineer, a former Marine Corps infantry officer and combat veteran, and now a homestead farmer in Northeast Texas, I understand adversity, right? But more importantly, how to overcome it. These kinds of experiences shape how I build, focused on durable, practical solutions for the real world. As Pete mentioned, we are raising a $400,000 seed round, and so we'd love for you all to join us as we build an autonomous, real-time solution to a problem that's only being temporarily and superficially addressed today. Thank you so much.
Anyway, my name is Siba Das. I am CEO of NovaClid. I'm from Minnesota. I'm really excited to tell you about the next generation insect control we are working on. I was a scientist at University of Minnesota before I started this company. And there I met a farmer while I was researching insect control. His name is Jerry Antai. He grows fruits and vegetables there. He has been growing there since the 70s. Things were going pretty well for him. Starting 2014 or so, he noticed an insect called spotted wing Drosophila in his raspberry fields. And whatever he did, he couldn't get control over this little insect. Moreover, he noticed pollinator population being reduced because of the insecticides he was spraying in them. And that's not an isolated case, really. And many of you may have your own stories of the insect you are trying to control. As a matter of fact, insects cause more than $70 billion damage to they cause more than $70 billion of revenue loss every year, despite spraying chemicals. And the reason is not that we don't have active control measures. The control measures are really failing. We have insecticides resistance growing every year. Insects becoming more and more resistant because they have been exposed to so much of insecticides. The regulation is taking away these insecticides. I mean, every year they find out that something is more toxic, so they get taken away from the market. And consumers, they demand something that doesn't have any residue in their produce. So the solution we come up with is called SMART, where we make sterile insects. It stands for Sterile Male Accelerated Release Technique. What we do is we create sterile males using genetics and machine vision and release them. Those males go out, mate with the females. The females lay eggs, but those eggs never hatch. So you get control over the population without even spraying chemical. The pests become the pesticide. They go find the pest, the population is just gone. And there are many advantages over it, not just that it is not just that it is free of chemicals. The other advantages is you we don't have, even though we use genetic modification, the final product doesn't really contain any modification, so there is no concern of new genetic gene drive in there. There are no chemical residues, obviously, because they work with reproduction, blocking the reproduction. And the registration for our product is considered as a device from EPA and from EPA point of view, and that makes it much easier to go to the market compared to other products. The development cost of this, because of those advantages, is pretty low compared to synthetic insecticides. We can create a product that can go to market from the start to market for 90% of the cost that they require. And that's because they have so much additional cost for regulation and the testing they need to do, and we don't have any of those costs. The business model is simple. Right, the business model is simple. We create them in the farm, we ship them to the, we create them in the lab, ship them to the farmers using pre-existing shipping channels such as the beneficial insects, and we don't need to create anything. The farmer have to either use our drones to release them or open the box in their field, and it's pretty simple. Compared to other competitors, ours, as I mentioned, doesn't really require much regulatory, we don't have much regulatory hurdle, and that makes it cheaper because we are the only ones that can bring it to market with the fraction of the cost required. And it is a targeted control. You don't have to go to, you don't have to worry about the other killing the pollinators or other beneficial insects. While this technology can work on many different insects, actually pretty much any sexually reproducing organism, our first work is on the insect that Jerry was dealing with, and it's called spotted wing drosophila. It's an invasive insect. It's a fruit fly. Affects soft fruits such as berries and blueberry, raspberry, etc. And then other insects in our pipeline are New World screwworm. It's an insect for tree nuts. Asian citrus psyllid for oranges. New World screwworm, etc. are in our pipeline. Yeah, okay, cool, thank you. So the spotted wing market is pretty big in the US. It's all over the insect isn't invasive, so it was not there before 2008. Once it invaded, it has pretty much gone all over the US, sparing a couple of states there. And pretty much we have talked to many of the farmers who grow soft fruits. All of them, almost all of them, are ready to use our product once we have them available. The team is composed of 3 of us. I started this from University of Minnesota, where I met the other scientists too, and they share the same kind of passion as me. Really appreciative of all the funding I have received. I have gotten money from pretty much any major agency there. And you guys were the first ones to write me a check that is not a federal or grant agency. So really appreciative of your check. We are also raising funds. Can you go next? And we'll be coming back to you at some point of time to help us bring it, to help us with the field testing and the commercial launch. And with that, I think I have told you how difficult it is to control insects and how we can provide a better control for a cheaper price. Thank you very much.
What are the similarities between a pen writer and a veterinary technician? Obviously, so they both work with animals. However, that be with dogs and cats or with livestock, they are both strictly reliant on visual cues to diagnose if an animal is healthy or not. And in a day of rapidly growing automation, visual cues are a little outdated. That's where we come in. We are SeisMe, and we are a company that is dedicated to creating an ecosystem of integrated yet simple technology to improve the well-being of livestock and pets. My name is Celine Mayer, and I'm Seismi's Business Development Manager and a recent graduate from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln with my degree in biochemistry. And accompanying me today is Yale Zhang, Seismi's founder and CEO, who has 19 years with experience in developing 4 different companies and exiting 1.
Hey,
We got it. Seismi's first product is the pet mat. The pet mat is a device.
we have a backup controller as well, so.
Okay. The pet mat is a device that is used to detect the vital signs of dogs and cats while they are under surgery and post-operation. It does this, the same technology as one of our other devices, which we will get to. It was clinically trialed at the Kansas State University and has been fully commercialized, selling 4 different units at $500 a piece. And then we have Seismi's magnum opus, in my opinion, which is our cattle ear sensor. It's kind of like an AirTag. I'm sure a lot of you, or a Fitbit. I'm sure a lot of you out there have Fitbits or Apple Watches, or if you have taste, Garmin watches. So you have an idea of what it does. It tracks heart rate, temperature, respiration rate, and blood oxygen levels, which are all things that you need to know in order to diagnose bovine respiratory disease. And for those of you that don't know, that is the #1 killer of cattle in the beef industry, costing the industry $4 billion annually. But it's not just BRD that we can detect. We can also detect congenital heart disease or even mating seasons during cow-calf season. This is Dr. Capaldo, who's one of the doctors that's helped us work through Kansas University in developing the ear tag and the pet mat. And Peter Thiel has invested $200 million in a $200 billion valuation for a company that's similar to ours. But the difference between our company and theirs is they only have 1 product line, and we have 5. All of the data that is transmitted and collected from the ear tag is sent via Bluetooth to our Seismi app. And on the app, it gives you an individual health profile of every single cow, including a score that is color-coded so you can see exactly how sick your cattle are. This is important because when it comes to BRD, we actually had the privilege of going to James Hunt's farm yesterday, and he was telling us about how one of his cows did have BRD, but it was a little too late. She had permanent lung damage and scar tissue, which directly affects the quality of your meat. So you're not just investing in the literal livelihood or whether or not your animals survive, but you're also investing in the long-term quality of your product.
All right, thank you, Celine. So our devices are actually really quite simple. It's a 3-second installation process. So you just put the sensor around the existing ear tag, and you put a latch on there, and then you're golden. Okay. So, and to find out the health of the cattle, we just have to go to my pull list over here and ask, how's 6101 doing today?
High temperature for 5 hours on Wednesday, and its daily activity level decreased significantly. It is suspected to be in poor health.
Well, you heard it there, folks. All right, so each device is $20 with a $2 a year annual subscription fee, and we have LOIs signed with 4 major feedlots, including 5 Rivers. Not only do we have a breakthrough price, but we are the only device on the market that detects heart rate and respiration rate. And we have 2 patents so far that cover both the pet mat as well as the ear tag sensor. And since we've been through AgLaunch, we actually made several improvements. The first one is reinforcing the strength of the latching mechanism, of which we are now testing latest version on cattle at Kansas State University, as you can see here. Last week, we visited a dairy in upstate New York who has a high mortality rate for their calves and are looking forward to deploying our sensors when they come into the market. And as you heard earlier from Celine, we visited the Hunt family farm in, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Onalaska, Wisconsin. And of course, we stopped by Carl Fox's place, and needless to say, he's a fan as well. So our team consists of myself, Yale, and my co-founder, Owen, who is a product manager at Facebook, Celine here, and as well as Jared, who is a cattle livestock consultant with 20 years of experience. The rest of our group is rounded out by Charles, who was the former co-founder of Guardian. Dr. Nathaniel Capaldo, you see his face for a 3rd time today. He's a really cool guy. Tara and Anna, our advisors, have collectively exited their companies for a combined value of $700 million to AgroLimon and Zoetis. And here are the pictures of some of the pilot sites that have signed up: a feedlot, a dairy, and a cow-calf in western Nebraska. And we believe the market is tremendous. Just the bovine market, we believe, could be $750 million annually in America. And we're not stopping there. We're also testing on sheep at NDSU and poultry at Purdue, and we have submitted and are awaiting the results from $2 million in grants from the USDA. Our future products, as Samin talked about, include a methane monitoring nose ring that helps determine feed efficiency by also measuring the CO2, a ultrasound, portable ultrasound that helps detect congestive heart failure, which is actually the #2 killer of cattle in the market, and of course a handheld RFID reader that can read our tags, all of our devices, and also the ear tags that are on your cattle right now, especially the EIDs. So it ties everything together. So here are some of our test sites that not only did we get, but also are planned through our participation in AgLaunch. We have a few photos down here from our recent visits to both pet hospitals as well as to farms. And just to recap, we started off in pets, we're now in cattle, and we are going to be in other animals soon. So we're in Mason City today, of course, and couldn't leave the stage without making a musical reference. So if you're on the fence about investing in a company that's about to take off, I'm just telling you that we're going up, up, up. It's our moment. Thank you.